We've all heard the story, right? For pretty much 5,000 years, we've been told this one simple tale about the Great Pyramid of Giza. You know the one. Pharaoh Khufu built it to be his tomb, and he did it with thousands of workers, some basic copper tools, and a whole lot of grit. It's the story they teach you in history class. All right, but what if that neat little story is more than just incomplete? What if it's actually a cover-up, a massive one? What if the real story, the much deeper, way more complex truth, has been buried on purpose? And not just by the sands of time, but by the very people who are supposed to be protecting history. So let's start our investigation right there, with that official story. Because the moment you start to really look at it, really poke at it, you realize it's standing on some seriously shaky ground. The whole thing starts to unravel almost the second you pull on the first thread.
So here's the official line, the one you'll find in all the textbooks. Around 2550 BC, Pharaoh Khufu ordered up this unbelievable structure to be his final resting place. Simple as that. It's always presented as a hard fact. But, facts, well, they need evidence to back them up, don't they?
Think about it. For a pharaoh's tomb, especially one this massive, you'd expect to find certain things, right? You'd expect royal inscriptions everywhere, tons of treasure for the afterlife, and, the pharaoh's mummy. But inside the Great Pyramid, nothing. Absolutely nothing. No body, ever. No treasure. The only so-called inscriptions are these faint little marks in a sealed-off chamber that a lot of experts don't even agree on. It just begs the question, if this was a tomb, where's the stuff? Okay, so the lack of evidence inside is weird, for sure. But the building itself, that presents an even bigger puzzle. The mystery isn't just about what's missing. It's about what's physically there, carved into the very stones of the pyramid. And this really is the million-dollar question, the one that has modern engineers scratching their heads. The official story says, yep, they did it all with simple copper tools, some rope, and a whole lot of manpower. But does the evidence we see in the stone actually back that up? Just think about some of these things. The pyramid is aligned to true north with a level of precision that would give modern architects a run for their money. It's built with these enormous granite blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, that were somehow moved over 500 miles. And researchers have found marks that look a lot like they were made by advanced machines, even perfectly round drill holes. Oh, and inside those super narrow passages, not a single scorch mark. No soot. So if they were using torches to see, where did all the smoke go?
And here's the real kicker. When modern experts try to copy these cuts in granite using the same ancient methods, they can't do it. Not even close. Their copper tools just get mangled. They're basically useless against that hard stone. So you gotta ask, if we can't do it today with all our knowledge, how in the world did they pull it off thousands of years ago?
All these engineering problems, they've pushed some researchers to ask a really radical question. A huge one. What if our timeline is just completely wrong? What if these incredible monuments on the Giza Plateau are actually thousands and thousands of years older than we think? And maybe the biggest clue for this much older timeline isn't even on the pyramid itself. It's right next door, on the body of the Great Sphinx. See, geologists like Dr. Robert Schoch, they looked at the Sphinx and noticed something odd. The erosion patterns on it, they're not the sharp, layered kind you get from wind and sand blowing for centuries. Nope. They're these rounded, vertical grooves, the exact kind of pattern you only get from tons and tons of rain over a long, long time. Now, here's where it gets wild. The last time it rained that heavily in the Sahara, enough to cause that kind of erosion, was at the end of the last ice age. We're talking over 12,000 years ago. If that geology is right, it means the Sphinx could be more than twice as old as the official story tells us. Just let that sink in for a second. And it doesn't stop there. Another researcher, Robert Bauval, he noticed something incredible in the stars. The layout of the three big pyramids on the ground, it's a perfect map of the three stars in Orion's belt. But not the Orion's belt of 2550 BC. The alignment is a perfect pinpoint match for how those stars looked in the sky way back around 10,500 BC. Which, crazily enough, lines up perfectly with the water erosion timeline for the Sphinx. Now, with all this conflicting evidence piling up, you'd think there'd be a huge rush of new research, right? Scientists and archaeologists from all over the world just dying to get in there and explore. But nope. For decades, access to these sites has been kept on a very tight leash, often by one very powerful man. That man is Dr. Zahi Hawass.
For years, he was the face of Egyptian archaeology, the top guy. And as you can see from his own words, he's been, let's just say, very resistant to any theories that rock the boat. He has a history of shutting down research that challenges the official story. He held some incredibly powerful positions, which basically made him the gatekeeper of all of Egyptian history. He was the one who decided who got permission to excavate, what questions they were allowed to ask, and, this is the big one, which discoveries the public ever got to hear about. And all of this has led a lot of people to ask a pretty tough question. Is all this tight control really about protecting Egypt's priceless heritage? Or is it about protecting a 100-year-old official story from new evidence that could just blow it completely out of the water? The plot thickens, though, when you realize what might actually be at stake here, because some very recent discoveries suggest the Great Pyramid is still holding on to some massive secrets. Secrets hidden away in sealed rooms that no one has opened yet. Okay, get this. Back in the 90s, a little robot was exploring this tiny, narrow shaft, and it bumped into a sealed limestone door with these weird copper handles. It took almost 10 years, but another team finally got permission to drill a tiny hole through it. And what did they see on the other side? Another sealed door, just sitting there. And to this day, nobody has been allowed to go any further. And then, fast forward to 2017, and we get a totally revolutionary discovery. Scientists use this incredible technology called cosmic ray scanning, basically X-raying the pyramid, and they found a giant hidden void deep inside. We're talking a massive unknown chamber, about as long as the Grand Gallery. And guess what? Still no plans to actually go in and see what's there. So, how do you explain all of this? Well, the alternative theories are pretty mind-blowing. One idea is lost technology, that the ancient Egyptians just knew how to do things that we've since forgotten. Or maybe it was inherited knowledge, that they were the descendants of a much older, more advanced civilization. And that leads to this huge idea, championed by people like Graham Hancock, that there was a sophisticated global civilization that got wiped out in a massive cataclysm about 12,000 years ago, leaving behind just echoes of their amazing knowledge for later cultures, like the Egyptians, to find. So in the end, we're left staring into this massive mystery. All the evidence seems to point to one thing. There's way more to our ancient history than the official story tells us. And it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? What incredible secret is waiting behind that second sealed door? What's inside that giant hidden chamber? What single discovery, maybe buried just a few feet under the sand, is waiting to be found and completely change everything we think we know about our own story?